One of the things that really bothers me about anthropology, and it's that we're getting out of it, we're not out of it yet, is the fact that, and it's just terrible to say, but European white men decided what everybody was doing in anthropology. They decided that if it was a matriarchal society, it was on its way out. That wasn't a real society. They decided that they never, for years and years, they didn't recognize any kind of domestic arts as technology, when there's a good chance that technology was driven by domestic arts,
Mhm.
that the spinning and weaving and sewing things together was what that's why you made needles. Where are you going to get a needle from? You have to make it. How are you going to sew things together? You got to do some
Yeah.
of this stuff. So there's a good and weaving. There's a theory out there that weavers may have been the first mathematicians.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about it, they have in weaving, you have a certain number of threads that go one way and a certain number the other way, and you have patterns you want to put in it. And the patterns may or may not repeat. But if you want a repeat pattern, you have to understand how this many this way and this many this way turn into a pattern with the colors that you're using. And some of them don't even use colors. There's a lot of patterns that don't use colors. And they did it, and we have evidence back 5,000 years ago that they were doing it.
Yeah.
Good evidence that they were doing it 5,000 years ago. So that kind of predates most of the mathematics we know about.
Right. It's it's like it's mathematics in practice,
Yes.
and you wonder if it was reverse engineered, it because that wasn't their intent, right? It was a
Well, I think that they had to do it in their heads. I
yeah.
think that they did it as a visual problem in their heads. And some people that do different kinds of mathematics do it that way, as a visual problem. So once you start doing it as a visual problem, maybe you started drawing it in the dirt or the clay or something. We have no record of anything like that, but who knows where it really went.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of other like they've been surprised that what they're finding is shopping lists and Sumerian stuff. Okay, why not?
Yeah.
If you want to go to the market and you're sending your daughter-in-law who's not very bright off to the market, maybe you wrote out a shopping list for her. Then they found things like tax counting, and they found one what's tax avoidance, how to avoid taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, so these are really basic domestic problems. These are not high end. We're looking at the sky and
Yeah.
calculating the stars and things. So I
Do you,
think we need to look more at that.
do you think I love what you're talking about with how Western European white men, the scholars, we'll call them, they've put a capsule around, I think, understanding or the attempts to understand it. And they push these, I would say, what would you call them? Like freelance, what would you call them? They're not, obviously they're not scientists, but they're curious minds that are out here trying to figure things out and it's normally things that can't be explained, like the pyramids. Like
Mhm.
people cannot figure out how we built the pyramids, and it's created this fascination amongst authors and other people that come from
Yeah,
all these different backgrounds. And do you think that's what we need? Is you need people that sometimes that aren't in the system to
we
look at
do.
the
We do.
system?
And there are, oh gosh, biologists, anthropologists, archaeologists are now teaming together to take a new look at some of the information we have and some of the pieces we have to try and come up with a different understanding of them.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, and I can't remember what they actually called them to begin with. It's a round stone with a hole in it. And for a long time, and they tend to be all about the same size. And for a long time, I think they thought they were some kind of weights for fishing or nets or something. Turns out, and then they thought they were for spinning. Turns out they're weaving weights, but nobody who looked at them had ever seen anybody weave. So they had no idea. So now, when we're integrating people from different cultures, the other thing about the white European man too is it was all Christian for one thing,
Yeah.
and women and people of color were all chattels, and they had no brains. The reason they were chattels is because they couldn't think for themselves. So anything that had to do, they automatically made assumptions even when they came into the very sophisticated Native American societies on the East Coast. They made an assumption that they were all savages and treated them like savages. And they never did get over that. I mean, we still haven't gotten over some of it. So I think that seeing people from different disciplines working together to take a different look at some of these things is giving us whole new information.
Yeah. I like that's one thing there's a lot of value in the podcast world and the new independent media is you're able to uh not only are people building a very large network because the algorithms are aligning these people, all across the globe that have similar
Yeah.
interests, and all of a sudden they're getting fed their content. Now they're actually getting together and going on educational study trips and things like that together
Yeah.
and having the conversations again and looking at it um, outside of the what do they call them? Not the educators, but the scholars,
Yeah.
that have held the lock and key on this stuff for so
Yeah.
long, and now they've kind of worked their way around it. And I think
They
that that's
have.
it's been I can say that that's been great for my generation is because you don't want to be suppressed by what they're telling you. You don't want to be. It's
No.
not good for you. In the
Right.
It's not good for a society, I don't think, to get trapped.
No, it is not good for a society. The other part that comes with it that you haven't, I think you know, but you haven't explicitly said is that you can listen to other people's podcasts. So you can go completely outside your discipline. So somebody who's working in anthropology may have a hobby of weaving. So now they
Yeah.
bring those two pieces together. Somebody who's working in archaeology may think mathematics is interesting. So they start listening to a podcast about science or
Yeah.
mathematics or something. So I think the ability to get a layman's understanding of different topics is very important too.
Yeah.